What you in the market for? Glitter Stim, Nova Jack, Corellian Sunburst? I invented all those spices. Ask anybody.
How much to buy all 3 of those spices?
Spice is the narcotic of Star Wars. Originally, just a few offhand lines from A New Hope.
What are we going to do? We'll be sent to the spice mines of Kessel or smashed into who knows what.
It eventually became the overarching term for drugs in the galaxy. Generic spice is a sandy substance that could be smoked, ingested, or cooked and injected, giving euphoria and hallucinations. It's like a mix of heroin and LSD. It became a staple of the expanded universe, used in books, comics, video games, whether it was a plot device or flavor text to spice things up. With over 60 variants of spice in Legends, it ranged from the most vicious, life-ruining narcotics to table spices. But first, why did George call it spice? Well, it's no mystery that the original Star Wars movie borrowed tons of ideas from other media. Flash Gordon, The Hidden Fortress, Dam Busters, and Dune. If you're interested in Dune or film history in general, I highly recommend watching Jodorowsky's Dune. It's a documentary about the unmade 1974 Dune film that was going to have music by Pink Floyd, starring Salvador Dali, Orson Welles, David Carradine, and Mick Jagger, and even art designs by H.R. Giger. And this is pre-Alien. The visionary director Alejandro Jodorowsky sent a screenplay book to studios in Hollywood, and it seemed amazing, but it was universally rejected by studios like Universal, Paramount, and even Disney said that it wasn't normal enough sci-fi like 2001: Space Odyssey. It was too metaphysical, philosophical, and weird. But even without the film getting made, copies of that initial screenplay book circulated around Hollywood.
Just the way his sword fights were designed, there's a huge amount of influence.
There's a scene of Paul dueling with a robot and doing training, and it's a lot like Luke dueling with the ball in the Millennium Falcon.
Giger, he make the monster of Alien. Why he make the monster of Alien? Because Don O'Bannon create Alien. They take Moebius, they take Giger, Foss, and Hollywood start to use my group. No? It was very fantastic.
A lot of people took images and ideas with them and incorporated them to other projects.
Star Wars had the desert planet, sand crawlers, moisture collection, eventually giant worms, and spice.
The most precious substance in the universe is the spice melange.
The spice must flow.
In Dune, spice melange is a drug that extends your lifespan as well as enhances your mental abilities to the point of being able to fold space-time for galactic travel. It also gave you the blue eyes. So the drugs of Star Wars were given a name. And yes, Uncle Owen and Aunt Beru told Luke that his dead dad was a drug dealer.
No, my father didn't fight in the wars. He was a navigator on a spice freighter.
That's what your uncle told you.
And Han Solo, obviously, smuggled hard drugs. But it's not that obvious to some people, apparently. In 1994, author Kevin Anderson submitted the book Jedi Search to Lucasfilm for approval, and it included spice as a drug. The politically correct executives at the time at Lucasfilm told him that spice can't be drugs because that would mean that Han Solo, a hero, used to be a drug dealer. And that just won't do. They demanded that he rewrite spice as a food additive, which Anderson replied, "Would you think he was smuggling oregano? What's the matter for you?"
Atsamara, hey, Atsamara for you.
So the executives, furious, got Big George on the horn to get him to make Anderson understand that spice is a food additive and not a drug. To which George Lucas responded, "It is a drug though. It's a drug. It's a food additive? What? Of course it's a drug. It's space heroin. That's what else would it be? What?" So luckily, spice remained hard narcotics. Because in a hive of scum and villainy, people aren't dealing salt to avoid taxes. Even if that did happen in our history and we've warred over salt before, that's not my headcanon.
Salt.
By the way, salt and food flavorings are already in Star Wars, labeled as food spices. There's actually a species, the Arcona, that are addicted to salt like it was a spice. Salt is also poisonous to godels. Them godels can't get a damn break. The earliest use of spice dated back to pre-Republic civilizations. 27,000 years before the first film, people used sleeper ships to colonize the galaxy. Although these ships traveled faster than the speed of light, they didn't have hyperdrive systems yet because it wasn't invented. So sleeper ships took hundreds of years to arrive to a system. So to accomplish these colonizations, they would freeze all their crew in carbonite. But carbonite had bad side effects when you came out of it. Blindness, nausea, nerve damage, mental instability, brain damage, and just straight up death. Spice was crucial in this regard. It was given to the crew before and after carbonite freezing to minimize these symptoms.
I'm here because the Empire discovered how to process spice into painkillers. Save sick and injured soldiers when there's not enough colto around. The Empire's never been in the spice trade before, but there are young men and women who need these painkillers.
You'll have to get your spice someplace else.
And then, over the years, people realized the recreational uses that spice had, which led spice to be highly regulated and taxed, or just straight up illegalized across the galaxy. So naturally, organized crime and illegal production boomed as a result. It quickly became the #1 product for smugglers due to such high profit-to-volume ratio. And as usual in smuggling, piloting skills became paramount, because most smugglers' routes went through dangerous territory. The Kessel Run, for example, is a back way to Kessel that goes through the Maw Nebula, past a cluster of black holes called the Maw. The Kessel Run circumvents the usual route to Kessel, that's a lot safer but highly patrolled.
Traveling through hyperspace is like ain't like dusting crops, kid. Without precise calculations, we fly too close to a store, or bounce into a supermarket, and then...
Yeah.
Be a hell of a mess.
What's that?
Watch. We're losing the deflector shields. Go strap yourselves in. Be careful on the way out.
Kessel is a misshapen asteroid planet that's the biggest exporter of spice in the galaxy. The spices are mined mostly by slaves and droids. And the spice worlds that put out the most product were usually far from the core of the galaxy, because core worlds had been mined dry since ancient times, and spice operations farther away from Coruscant were less likely to be caught by the government. Although most spice is illegal, it's still common, especially within the Empire, for officials to take spice shipments as bribes, to look the other way on patrols for a while. Spice isn't always illegal though. Some are prescribed by doctors, which explains why Leia's given the 2-1B droid them eyes. For that spice hookup, you know what I'm saying?
I see the way you look at him. I'm a man too, you know. I go pee-pee standing up. I will defeat him. Please don't. I will defeat him.
Some are legal in trace amounts in wine or cocktails, kind of like space absinthe. Maybe you'd line your cup of calf with a nice dose of rill. And some are packed into tobacco products, or in Star Wars it's called tabak, smoked in cigaras. So what types of spices were there? Well, I've done the research. I'm basically certified as a pharmaceutical person, but for Star Wars spice. So basically it's the most useless skill ever that I can put on my resume. First off, there's generic spices. Again, these are the ones that are just euphoria with hallucinations. Oftentimes, I think writers just picked a spice and made up a name and just threw it in whatever thing they were making. But there are some interesting stories with some spices on this list. Sice Noodles, that singer in Jabba's palace, quit the Max Rebo band, went solo, and had 3 failing albums and then became addicted to Federal. Sweet Spice smells like Toydarian B.O., which is apparently very pleasant. And that Mummergy producers could be found in Star Wars galaxies, and it was one of the secret ingredients in Woo-Her's cocktail that he was trying to make for Jabba the Hutt to become rich and famous and get off of Tatooine. I'd also like to throw in that in this cocktail that Woo-Her was making, he dragged Greedo's dead body and milked his pheromones into the drink. I think Jabba really liked it. But anyways, there's a bunch of other spice people have written into Legends that have more interesting effects. First up, uppers. Glitter Stim is the first big one in Star Wars. It's expensive, rare, and extremely addictive. Gives euphoria, hallucinations, and a heightened mental state. It also gives a brief but limited version of telepathy. Overuse of Glitter Stim leads to brain deterioration, sight loss, paranoia, and death. Users are referred to negatively as glit biters. Glitter Stim is collected from the webs of energy spiders in the mines of Kessel. These creatures thrive in pitch black darkness, and they can even survive blaster bolts. Extremely dangerous. The spice that they produce is also photosensitive, activated by light, so it has to be mined in total darkness and packed with opaque paper. Andrus, also known as white spice, is very common. It's mainly used as a food additive and for food storage on long voyages. So you'd think it's like salt. However, it can be shocked and turned into a nootropic drug. So like an amphetamine, essentially. It's actually widely legal, but still abused by addicts. I'd like to informally give this spice the name alderol. Giggle dust, also known as exoprotein powder, is a golden brown spice that's smoked and gives euphoria, alertness, and makes you just laugh at everything. Gree is a purple spice that gives an overwhelming sense of power and happiness. And Crude is a psychoactive pill that reduces the user's inhibitions and makes them act on selfish impulses with no filter. On to downers. Rill, the second big one of the galaxy. Rill is a weak spice, but highly addictive. It's mined primarily from the Twi'lek homeworld of Ryloth, and has medicinal uses in painkillers and anesthetics. Like Glitterstim, it gives a boost to existing telepathic abilities. It gives high pain relief, and it's hallucinogenic, which is perfect for a Twi'lek dance club. A variant of Rill called Rill Core was once used with Bacta to make something called Rilka, which was a cure against a virus called the Krytos virus. This was a virus that targeted and killed millions of non-humans during the New Republic era. Karak is a strong painkiller pushed by spice dealers as pain medicine. It seemingly has no side effects when you use it, but trace toxins inside of it can build up in the body over time, causing severe health issues and eventually death. It's exactly OxyContin from the 90s and 2000s if spice dealers are licensed doctors. Oh, and Karak also suppresses force powers, which OxyContin may also do. Milliflower is an exotic red and blue flower from Naboo. It releases airborne chemicals that relaxes air-breathing species. It caused a tranquilizing effect that helped in aromatherapy and muscle relief. But mostly they're given as gifts on Naboo. It's a big part of the culture between both the Naboo and the Gungans. The extract from Milliflower, however, is illegal. You can concentrate it into this chalky, bitter powder that you ingest. 1 dose gives you the tranquilizing euphoria. 2 to 3 doses releases your inhibitions. And overdosing can cause unconsciousness or death by paralyzation or heart failure. What a lovely Valentine's gift. Markan herb is smoked through a pipe and gives you a high, and it has an easily recognizable odor when burned, and it's cheaper than most spice. So it's mids, I guess. Grey Gabaki is a gray plant that when burned as an incense, simply relaxes people. It's used in cantinas and storefronts, and I guess it's basically hardcore lavender. Sweet Blossom, or Granchek, is the nectar from a flower of the same name. The nectar is thinned out into a fluid, which is used as a sedative as well as a potent truth serum. All-arounders, these give multiple effects. Glitteril is a combination of Glitterstim and Rill. It can be made synthetically by mixing the 2 drugs together, but a more potent version could be made naturally. Energy spiders from Kessel that made Glitterstim were known to be imported to Ryloth and fed Rill. Afterwards, they grew to massive sizes and started spinning webs of Glitteril instead of Glitterstim. Glitteril is intensely addictive, amplifying the effects of both spices. It also caused long-term memory loss in the user. Most notably, it was used on the Jedi Knight Quinlan Voss and his apprentice Ayla Secura. Maybe she was on the Glitteril during Order 66. Like, she didn't even put up a fight. She was glitterally shot to death.
Whoa, what planet are we on? I forgot what we were doing here, but this is so cool. Someone should definitely take a picture. So trippy. Does anyone else hear Chancellor Palpatine? Ow! That stings! God, this is so stupid. So annoying.
Carcinum, also known as black spice, boosted mental and physical abilities and gave a sense of well-being. But the side effects were super random, varying from person to person, from having the jitters to having the death. Crash and burn, also known as nutrient burnout, is a chemical mix of random stimulants and depressants, whatever's laying around. It gives heightened awareness, but also awakens any latent psychodepressive tendencies. A narcotic incense is a substance that produces an aromatic smoke that either stimulates or depresses the central nervous system, depending on the species who inhaled it. Brief exposure caused a high, while prolonged exposure was often lethal. Then there are two types of animals' organs that could be harvested and genetically modified, from the Qui and the Klicknick. And when ingested, chemicals from these organs would line your organs in a protective layer, giving you a short boost in both physical and mental performance, followed up by puking up all those chemicals. Mind Enhancers. Thruster Head, also known as Tuscan Mix. It's injected and it instantly increases awareness and mental capabilities tenfold. And it's immediately followed by anxiety and extreme nausea. Muon Gold. It's a fashionable spice made by colliding engine lubricant with subatoms called muons. It's expensive to make, but it increases mental performance exponentially and reduces inhibitions. It's popular with witty smugglers on the side because it helps them talk their way out of hopeless situations. But it has degenerative effects on the neural pathways of the brain, and it brings on early dementia. Yaladae. It provides relaxation and supreme mental clarity. Force users also found that it greatly enhanced their abilities and connection to the Force. But it's highly addictive and it amplifies negative emotions, often pushing Force users towards the dark side. Yarok root, also known as Rockhouse, is a natural Iridonian root spice given to warriors before battle for a sense of confidence and understanding of life. Basically, it's a drug to make soldiers ready to kill or be killed. It increases mental performance, and it's also a strong hallucinogen, but repeated use led to permanent psychosis. Nanarium root comes from blue nanarium flowers. It increases cognitive performance and mental sharpness at the cost of a slight physical strain. It's popular among college kids. Onto Reflex Enhancement. Neutron Pixie, also known as the Kessel Special, is a hallucinogen made from a mushroom from Toydaria called Black Gabaki. These mushrooms calmed the user's mind and enhanced their agility. The fungus taste was usually covered up with a fruity flavoring. Booster Blue is made from the dyes that go into industrial starship paint. This blue liquid that was usually stored in a metal container greatly enhanced reaction time. It's popular with gunslingers, and it's not uncommon for pilots to overdose on it during extended missions. Also, it's been known that people who combined Neutron Pixie, Booster Blue, and Thruster Head, that they could literally dodge a blaster bolt on reaction. I bet in the special edition, Han ate some Neutron Pixie mushrooms, injected Thruster Head, and huffed Blue Booster before this happened. No one's made a name for this combination of drugs, so I'm gonna name it something real original. Trinity.
Trinity! Help!
Or non-solo. Magravian Cat Spice gave literal cat-like reflexes. Shadow Paw, also known as Endor Root. It's ground up and smoked, usually through a long bone pipe by Ewoks. It spiked reflex speed but wore the body down with each use. And then finally, Impact was extracted from fungus from Felucia. It could be ingested for a short, dramatic spike in reflex speed, followed by a lethargic crash. Onto Strength Enhancers. Red Rage is a spice used by Sith during the Great Hyperspace War of 5000 BBY. It increases strength at the cost of eyesight, which is an accepted sacrifice by Force users, since the Force can account for a lack of vision. Gunjack, also known as Zabran, is injected, giving a strength buff at the cost of reduced motor control, mental sharpness, and the ability to reason. Afterwards, the user feels weak and sluggish, with long-term health risks. Scramjet, also known as Bantha Radish, it's steroids. It's Star Wars steroids. I think it's fun that you can refer to people as probably being on the Bantha Radish. Zypoline Droid Lubricant, also known as Corellian Mist, was literal droid lubricant. But when rubbed on the skin of a humanoid, it boosted muscle performance at the cost of cellular decay. Parepanol, also known as Parwan Syrup, heightened physical strength and gave a sense of invulnerability. Lumni Spice is one of the rarest spices in the galaxy, found on caves on Hoth and Korlog. It has unknown effects on humanoids because fire-breathing dragon slugs usually defend them. But what we do know is that those dragon slugs eat the Lumni Spice, and as a result they can grow up to 20 meters, and they develop armor-like skin. Now for spice with special properties, not necessarily bad, good, or enhancing, just niche stuff. Avabush is a non-addictive plant that could be brewed into tea. It gives you relaxation and sleepiness, but it has subtle truth serum effects. With the right balance of flavor, you wouldn't even taste it, making it popular among spies and criminals. Deluge countered hunger pangs and sapped all desire for food. Side effects included apathy and lethargy. It was developed by the Old Republic during the New Sith War to save on cost for military resources. Lasai is purple mold that grows on the backs of lizards who live in garbage. It's scraped off with a spatula and then you rub it on your throat and it leaves a purple stain. It's pretty disgusting. However, it completely removes the need for sleep and extends your lifespan by the amount of time that you're not sleeping. The rich are the ones who are usually addicted to it, and it's commonly spread information that it's really bad for you, destroying the moral centers of the brain. But it's speculated that these side effects were made up by the rich to keep the commoners in the dark.
Alone again, natural mo. Labu.
Onto the horrible death sticks. They were developed on Coruscant in illegal pharmaceutical labs, using mushrooms from the planet Balasar, and they were usually dealt by Balasars, such as Elon Sleaze Bagano. It comes in a granulated form, which could be smoked, but was most known for its red and yellow liquid forms that came in a vial, which can be injected or mixed with alcohol. The effects it gives are enticing enough, twisted, bright-colored hallucinations and a nice high, but the side effect is where the namesake comes from. Death sticks shortened your lifespan, and each hit makes the desire for the next hit to be even bigger, quickly and exponentially decreasing the lifespan of the user. You could take years off your life in one night. Medical assistance was required to kick the habit, assuming the user even wanted to stop. Even then, it cost thousands of credits.
Boy, I could sure go for a death stick right now. Those things will kill you. Stay where you are.
Angspice. It's basically a generic spice that's highly addictive, gives euphoria, hallucinations, that normal stuff. But each spice dealer makes their own strain of Angspice. And the first strain someone takes, that becomes the only strain that will satisfy their addiction. So Angspice earned the street name The Leash. If you get leashed, you either quit and try to survive withdrawals, or you're stuck trying to get the same Angspice from the same dealer for the rest of your life. Tempest is a mix of Glitterstim and a virus from the Hutt's homeworld. Taking Tempest gives the effects of Glitterstim followed by a fit of uncontrollable rage. The sensation of taking Tempest is like hot spikes being driven into the back of your brain, followed by pleasurable emotions, a short temper, and then a feeling of invulnerability. It's PCP. Oh hey, he's on the Trinity combo. Tempest is a key component of Tempest Feud, an adventure module for the Wizards of the Coast tabletop game. And finally, Eldrats is a man-made silvery slimy resin that puts the user in a catatonic state, giving the user no semblance of their former self, and people usually use it on others to enslave them. Eldrats was once used by a human mine administrator to enslave creatures called Cluzots to mine valuable Nova crystals for jewelry. Once a slave was near death from Eldrats doses, they were released to wander like a zombie until finding an echo of their former self again. In summary, there are tons of spices written into Star Wars back in the day, and it's pretty overwhelming and sometimes messy, but with cool ideas sometimes. Actually, that's Legends in a nutshell. Now you're equipped with all the knowledge you need to do a little smuggling on the side. As long as you keep one thing in mind.
The spice must flow.
Wow, what a wonderful galaxy of spice we have here today. Thank you for watching the video, and thank you to my patrons who voted on this topic and supported this video's creation. Share it if you really liked it, like, comment, subscribe, all that stuff helps the channel grow. And I'll see you guys in the next video.
The legend will never die.